anniversary. It's our anniversary. It's our anniversary. Hi all, I bet you can tell from the intro that it is my anniversary. Well, it's my work-aversary. Today marks 14 months that I have been working at my current job. You can also probably tell from the intro that I had aspirations of being a singer, and well, we can kind of tell why that didn't work out. What I've really been wanting to do on this channel is to talk about young professional life and not just graduate school. I wanted to talk about what it's like to transition from undergrad to post-grad life and what it's like to claim a new identity as a working girl. In honor of this work-aversary, I want to talk about 5 insights that I have learned during my first year on the job. And I'm not talking about insights like you should probably get coffee at 7:30 or else it gets really crowded in the break room. No, I'm talking about really deep, emotional, mental insights that I've learned from working. Okay, so maybe they're not that deep, but you get where I'm going with this. Basically, these are things that I've learned that you're not going to find in your manual when you start your job. So let's get started, shall we? So one of the first things that I've learned is finding comfort in the discomfort. If you're anything like me, you have been preparing for this job for a long time. You've taken the courses, you've had positions, you've had internships, and you've earned your job. And there's a reason why you got hired. And I think you should definitely be proud of that. It's a big accomplishment. Unfortunately, when you get to your first job, well, you may feel more incompetent than ever. I mean, you have gone from being at the top to the bottom, and you have a huge learning curve that doesn't really exist when you're in undergrad. I remember my first 3 months of my job, I felt utterly clueless, and I had to ask for everything when I was used to asking for nothing. I felt completely ignorant and so incapable of doing the work that I was somehow supposed to be doing. Even basic tasks that I was sure I could do, like taking notes or entering things into an Excel spreadsheet, things that I knew how to do, I somehow was doing wrong because the company just had different standards and a different way of structuring things. So to find comfort in the discomfort, well, I had to learn to be okay with that. I had to learn to be okay with asking for help, with admitting that I didn't know things, and with growth. When I started, I did ask others for advice on starting their first job, and they told me that to ask questions and to be okay with asking questions. But no one really explained to me that I needed to be okay with the other side of that, which is failure. I had to learn how to accept failing on a daily basis. And I kid you not, I fail at my job definitely a few times a day. And initially this was really hard. I mean, I was an overachiever in school. I'm sure a lot of you are too. So failing and messing up constantly was something I wasn't used to, and I honestly didn't know how to handle it. I was coming from being at the top where everyone was like, oh my gosh, you're so smart, you're so capable, this job is for you, blah, 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 to an environment where it was like, okay, you don't know how to do this, you don't know how to do this, you don't know how to do this, well, you better learn. Okay, I made that seem way more cutthroat. What I mean is I had to get used to failure, and I had to find comfort in the discomfort. And now that I'm okay with that, it makes growing and learning a lot more fun. Going in with the expectation that you will fail, and you will fail a lot, makes things a lot easier moving forward. So go ahead, get in that growth mindset, and know that you're gonna make mistakes, but it's all gonna be okay. The second thing that I learned is that this is not a stepping stone. And I know a lot of people refer to your first entry-level job as a stepping stone to launch your career, but I'm gonna tell you why it's not. When I started my job, I was already obsessing over graduate school applications. I mean, I let my manager know that I was leaving. I let everyone know that this was the plan. And because of that, I viewed my job in terms of what can this do for me instead of why am I here and what can I contribute? I lacked accountability. You know, I lacked the drive of working for something other than the possibility of someday leaving. And it is true that your first job likely won't be your last, but it's also not just a time filler. This job will likely determine your trajectory for your career. I mean, it's gonna expand your network, it's gonna grow your skill set, you're gonna learn a lot of these things that will determine your next steps. So it's not a stepping stone necessarily, it's part of your path. So my biggest insight here is knowing that your purpose is in the here and now and not in the someday later on. It's your job to seize this opportunity, give it your all, and make the most of it. There are a lot of lessons to be learned in this job, and you should take advantage of all of them. The third insight that I learned is that, well, we all have to start somewhere. Your job will not be as glamorous as it is on the description. For me, I'd been in research for a while before starting this job, and still, when I looked at the application and I looked at, what the job duties were, it was easy for me to get kind of a skewed perception of what exactly the job would look like. Because while it is true that I'm contributing to groundbreaking research, well, research can take a lot of different forms. A lot of times I am sitting at my desk and packaging envelopes for incentives to mail off to schools. I am entering data into a spreadsheet. You know, it's not necessarily flying across the country and collecting data all the time. I've spent a considerable amount of time scheduling meetings, licking envelopes, filling out survey ID cards, and ordering caterings for trainings. None of the things I necessarily thought I would be doing. This is where I learned that, well, we all have to start somewhere. No one starts at the top, and I think that's a good thing. It's not a slap at your competence, it's simply preparing you. One of the things that I admire most about my boss is that for every task that she's giving me, she's been there and done that. And it gives me hope that one day I can tell some big-headed 22-year-old that we all have to start somewhere. Another thing I learned is that this is an adjustment. The hustle is not as glamorous and as aesthetic as it seems. Before I started my job, I remember going on Instagram and following all these boss babe accounts and hustle, grind hard. I was excited. I mean, if you've ever listened to Drake's Nice for What, when he's working 8 a.m. every day, and I'm like, yes, that's gonna be me. I'm gonna put in work. It's gonna be great. Well, it's not that great at all. It's called the hustle for a reason. I had a bit of added stress when I started my job because I came in knowing that I wanted to be in graduate school the next year. So I knew I had to do my applications and study for the GRE. But at the same time, I wanted to put 100% into every other facet of my life, whether that was new friendships in a new city or just having fun, getting fit, those types of things. And I was learning that I can't do it all. It was a really hard adjustment for me because I had just moved into a new apartment in a new city by myself, and I was starting to feel the stress of all the things and goals that I had set out for myself because they were really unattainable. At that point, I was getting up around 5:30 a.m., going on a run and working out, and then getting to work early because I just started my job and I really wanted to have a great reputation. And so I would work 8 hours, sometimes more. I would drive an hour back in traffic. I would work out again while studying for the GRE, doing vocab cards on the elliptical. And then I would make dinner, and then I would study another 2 hours, and I was exhausted. And I found that there wasn't time for other things like my friendships or my family. I was completely cut off and isolated from that. And those high expectations, they broke me. I remember one night I had fallen asleep watching TV, and I woke up in this panic that I wasn't being productive. Your first job is going to test you in so many ways. You're going to want to say yes to every single thing that your boss asks of you because you want to make a name for yourself and build a really good reputation. And you're going to want to post on social media like you're thriving when you're not. Going from school where you had maybe a few classes a day to having a full-time job where you're expected to take orders for 8 hours a day is definitely an adjustment, and you have to give yourself a break. A lot of times your first job is accompanied by a lot of other firsts, such as your first apartment or your first time living in a new city, first time paying bills, those sorts of things. So you have to give yourself a break and exercise self-compassion. The hustle, boss, grind mentality, all that stuff is great, but it's only great when it's accompanied with the realization that patience and acceptance of your limits are equally as important contributors to your success. The last insight that I have is that the grass is not always greener on the other side. And yes, I know this is a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason. And it took me months. I mean, I'm still working on this. Comparison truly is the thief of joy. Your 20s are confusing. Honestly, this period of life has been the most disjointed because everyone in their 20s is doing different things. It's like we've all been on a timeline from the time that we've been born. I mean, we go to grade school, we have grades to kind of mark our trajectory. If we choose to go to college, we have certain classes that we have to take so that we kind of know where we are and how we fit into society. And once you graduate, all that goes out the window. There's no structure, there's no markers of success, and it can make you feel really overwhelmed. And I think your 20s are specifically so disjointed because everyone goes off and does different things. I mean, some of my friends got married, others went and traveled the world, some started jobs, some started school. It's just everyone kind of dispersed, and then you can be stuck there wait, am I doing the right thing? Am I being successful too? It's really hard not to compare yourself when everyone is doing all these amazing things. For myself, I know that the transition from graduating college to adult life was particularly hard because I found myself in a position that I didn't intend to be. I didn't think I was going to be working. I thought I was going to be back in school. So the whole thing was really daunting just because it wasn't what I had planned. I had also grown up working. I've had a job ever since I was 16. I don't know what it's like not to work. So when I started my job, I was okay with that. I needed to have money and an income to be able to support my lifestyle, but I found myself grumbling because I was watching my best friends travel the world. They were going to like Italy and taking all these cool pictures, and I was like, dang, maybe I should do this. But instead, I'm licking envelopes and punching a clock. Like, I was so upset and just comparing myself to their lifestyle. And I remember one day catching up with my friends and telling them just how frustrated I was that I was sitting here having to work an office job, blah, blah, blah. And they were like, really? Because we're jealous of you. We wish that we were making money. We're traveling Europe, but we're broke and we don't know what we're gonna do when we get back. And I was like, you're jealous of me? Comparison is rampant. It's gonna follow you wherever you go. People are gonna be doing different things and it's gonna cause you to want to compare your life. But the grass isn't always greener on the other side, and you have to learn to bloom where planted and be content with your circumstances. Don't let comparison rob you of your job. Every situation that we're put in, we can use to flourish and fulfill our purpose. So those are the 5 insights that I have made working a full-time job for 14 months. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and subscribe.